Case 1. Midnight. Harlem. 1956. Officer Patrick O'Brien's back slams against cold brick. His breath comes in short, ragged bursts. 5 men surround him in the alley off 125th Street. Shadows with clenched fists and eyes burning with 30 years of rage. One of them holds a broken bottle. Another grips a brick. The streetlight at the alley's mouth flickers, casting their faces in and out of darkness. Patty's 23 years old, white, Irish, a rookie cop who's been walking Harlem streets for exactly 6 days. His service revolver sits heavy on his hip. He hasn't touched it, won't touch it, because pulling that gun means someone dies tonight. And he knows it won't be just one person. It'll be the entire neighborhood that pays. The tallest of the 5 steps forward. His voice is low, controlled, dangerous. Your uniform has harassed us for 30 years, beat my father in 42, arrested my brother on a corner for doing nothing, took money from my uncle's shop every Friday, like clockwork. Another voice cuts in from the left. Tonight, you pay for all of them. Patty tries to speak. His throat is dry. I'm not. You're not what? The man with the bottle moves closer. You're not a cop. You're not wearing that badge. You think we care that you're new? The brick rises. The bottle glints. Patty closes his eyes. Footsteps echo. Slow, deliberate, the sound of expensive leather on wet pavement. Then a voice, deep, calm, commanding. That's enough. The 5 men freeze. Patty's eyes snap open. A figure steps into the alley. Mid-50s, sharp gray suit, fedora tilted just so. A cane in his right hand, not for walking, but for presence. Tom Ellsworth, Bumpy Johnson, the most powerful man in Harlem. What happened next would change Harlem forever. But to understand why a gangster saved a cop, and why that cop became a legend, you need to know what Harlem was really like in 1956. Before we go further, drop a comment. Where are you watching from right now? And have you ever heard of Bumpy Johnson? Because this story, it's about to get wild. Harlem wasn't always a war zone. In the 1920s, it was the center of the universe for Black America. The Harlem Renaissance turned these streets into a cultural explosion. Langston Hughes writing poetry in cramped apartments. Duke Ellington filling the Cotton Club with jazz that made the whole world listen. Zora Neale Hurston capturing the soul of a people in every sentence. Harlem was pride. It was possibility. It was proof that black excellence couldn't be contained. But by 1956, that dream had curdled into something bitter. 30 years of systemic destruction had done its work. Banks refused mortgages to black families. Redlining turned entire neighborhoods into economic dead zones. Landlords stopped maintaining buildings. Entire blocks crumbled. Jobs disappeared or were never offered in the first place. The city government ignored Harlem unless they needed to send in one thing, police, and the NYPD didn't come to protect. They came to occupy. For 3 decades, Harlem residents had watched officers beat young men in alleys for looking suspicious, arrest people on corners for vagrancy, which meant existing while black, shake down business owners every week, pockets open, smiles thin, drag suspects into precinct houses where screams echoed and questions were asked with fists. The 1935 Harlem riot had exposed it all. A Puerto Rican teenager, a white store employee, rumors of murder. The neighborhood exploded. A mayoral commission later admitted the truth. Job discrimination, housing poverty, and brutal policing were tearing Harlem apart. But nothing changed. If anything, it got worse. Young white officers were told before their first Harlem shift, "Don't trust anyone up there. They hate cops. Treat them tough." Harlem isn't for the faint of heart. Some precincts used the assignment as a test. Survive Harlem for 6 months. You proved you were real NYPD. To the department, Harlem wasn't a neighborhood. It was enemy territory. The residents knew it. They felt it every time a patrol car rolled slow down Lenox Avenue, had eyes watching, hands on holsters. Every time an officer's voice dripped with contempt. Every time justice was something that happened to other people in other neighborhoods. By 1956, trust was dead. And into this powder keg, the NYPD sent a 23-year-old Irish kid from Brooklyn who'd never even been to Harlem before his first shift. His name was Patrick O'Brien, and he was about to learn what it meant to wear that uniform north of 110th Street. Patty's first day at the 28th Precinct felt like walking into a lion's den. Captain Raymond McBride stood at the front of the briefing room, thick neck, gray mustache, eyes like steel. He looked at Patty the way you'd look at a lamb before slaughter. "O'Brien." McBride's voice cut through the room. "You're assigned to Harlem. Congratulations." Laughter rippled through the other officers, but McBride wasn't finished. "Let me make this simple, kid. Survive Harlem. You can survive anywhere, but you gotta follow the rules. Don't trust anyone. Don't get soft. Don't think you're gonna make friends up there. They hate you. They hate that badge. And if you forget that for 1 second, you're dead." Patty swallowed hard. An older officer leaned over, whispered, 3 rookies didn't make it past their first month last year. 1 got jumped, 1 quit, 1 transferred to Staten Island and never looked back." Another cop chuckled, "Welcome to hell, Irish." But here's the thing about Patty O'Brien. He didn't grow up like these guys. His father was a union organizer in Brooklyn, worked the docks, fought for fair wages, fair treatment, dignity for working men. He taught Patty one thing above all else. People deserve respect, no matter where they come from. Patty didn't join the NYPD to dominate anyone. He joined because he wanted to help people. He wanted to be the kind of cop his father would be proud of, the kind who protected, who listened, who saw people as people. But sitting in that briefing room, surrounded by men who saw Harlem as a battlefield, Patty felt something cold settle in his chest, doubt, fear, and a quiet, stubborn determination. His first week passed in a blur. Tense street corners, suspicious stares, whispers that followed him everywhere. He walked his beat, kept his head down, tried to smile. No one smiled back. Then on a Friday night, Patty made a mistake. He decided to prove he wasn't afraid. He walked through Harlem, alone, at midnight. If you're enjoying this story so far, do me a favor, hit that like button. It helps more people discover these untold stories. And trust me, this one gets wild. Patty told himself it was about courage. He'd spent a week feeling eyes on his back, hearing whispers die the moment he turned around, watching people cross the street to avoid him. He wanted to prove to himself, to them, maybe to his father's memory, that he wasn't like the other cops. So he walked, off-duty, no patrol car, just him, the uniform, and the Harlem night. He made it 3 blocks before they found him. The first one stepped out from a doorway on 125th, then another from across the street, 2 more from a stoop, a 5th from the shadows of the alley. They didn't run, didn't shout. They just moved, smooth, coordinated, like wolves circling prey. Patty's heart hammered. He kept walking, tried to act calm, but his hands were shaking. "Evening," said officer. The tallest one, mid-20s, scar above his left eye, blocked the sidewalk. Patty stopped. "Evening. You lost?" "No, just walking. Just walking." The man smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Funny. When we just walk, your boys call it loitering, vagrancy, suspicious behavior. The others closed in. Patty's back hit the alley wall. Another voice, sharper. You know how many times I've been stopped on this block? 12. 12 times in 2 years. Never did nothing. But your uniform don't care. A third man stepped forward, older, angrier. They beat my father in 42, broke his ribs in a cell. Said he resisted. He was 53 years old and weighed 140 pounds. The one with the scar picked up a broken bottle from the gutter. Another grabbed a brick. Your uniform has harassed us for 30 years, Scar said quietly. Tonight you pay for all of them. Patty's hand hovered near his gun, but he knew that pulling it meant death. His, theirs, and every innocent person the NYPD would punish in retaliation. So he dropped his hand, closed his eyes, waited. The brick rose. Then, footsteps, slow, deliberate, leather on wet pavement. A voice, deep and calm, cut through the night like a blade. That's enough. Every man froze. Patty opened his eyes. A figure stepped into the alley. Gray suit, fedora, cane tapping softly against the ground. Bumpy Johnson, and the 5 men looked at him like he was God. Bumpy didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. You kill a cop, he said, eyes moving slowly across each face. They burn this neighborhood to the ground. You think they'll ask questions? You think they'll care who's innocent? Scar's grip on the bottle loosened. Mr. Johnson, this man, I know what he is. Bumpy's tone was ice. I also know what happens next. They send 100 officers, raid every building, arrest every young man they see. Your mothers, your sisters, your grandmothers, they all pay for what you do tonight. Silence. Go home. The 5 men hesitated. Then one by one they melted back into the shadows. Bumpy turned to Patty, studied him, those eyes, sharp, calculating, missing nothing. You. He tilted his head toward the street. Come with me. 10 minutes later they sat across from each other in a late-night diner on Lenox Avenue. Bumpy ordered coffee. Patty's hands still trembled as he wrapped them around his cup. The diner was nearly empty. A waitress wiped down the counter, pretending not to notice who just walked in. Bumpy sipped his coffee. Didn't speak, just watched. Finally, Patty broke. Why'd you stop them? You didn't pull your gun. What? You had 5 men ready to kill you. Your hand went to your holster. Then you stopped. Bumpy leaned back. Why? Patty exhaled slowly. Because pulling it would have made everything worse. Bumpy smiled, just barely. Most cops would have shot first, called it self-defense, gotten a medal. I'm not most cops. No. Bumpy's eyes narrowed. You're not. You were scared. I saw it. But you weren't hateful. That's rare. Patty looked down at his coffee. I don't want to be the enemy. Then don't be. Bumpy's voice was firm. But understand something, Officer O'Brien. Your uniform represents 30 years of pain, beatings, theft, humiliation. You want respect here? Yet you earn it, one person at a time. Patty met his eyes. And you? You run the numbers racket. You're a criminal. I am. No shame, no hesitation. I also keep drugs out of this neighborhood. I punish dealers who prey on our kids. I protect store owners when your corrupt colleagues try to shake them down. I do what the NYPD won't. The words hung in the air. Patty realized something in that moment. This man, a gangster, a criminal, cared more about Harlem than most of the officers at the 28th Precinct. Bumpy stood, dropped cash on the table. If you survive here, Officer O'Brien, come find me. I'll teach you how to walk these streets. He turned toward the door. And if you don't? Patty asked. Bumpy glanced back. Then you'll be just another cop Harlem buries. Quick question. What time is it where you're watching? Drop it in the comments. I'm curious how far this story is traveling. Patty found Bumpy 3 days later. Not at the diner. Not at some secret location. Right there on the corner of 125th and Lenox, in broad daylight, talking to a group of men like he was holding court. When Bumpy saw him, he didn't look surprised. Just nodded. You ready to learn? Yes, sir. Bumpy's eyebrow raised. Don't call me sir. Call me Bumpy. And lesson 1, stop walking like a cop. Walk like a neighbor. Over the next 6 months, Bumpy Johnson gave Patty O'Brien an education no police academy could provide. He taught him names. That's Mrs. Daniels. Runs the corner store on 132nd. Her husband died in the war. She's got 3 kids. You see anyone giving her trouble, you handle it. That's Reverend Hayes. Feeds 50 families every Sunday. You respect him like you'd respect your own priest. That's Junie Bird. Runs numbers for me. Don't arrest him. He's feeding his family. You want to help? Go after the heroin dealers destroying this neighborhood. Patty started walking his beat differently. He learned to stop, not to interrogate, but to talk. Asked Mr. Thompson about his grandson's baseball game. Helped Mrs. Williams carry groceries up 4 flights of stairs. Broke up a fight between 2 teenagers without handcuffs. Just words and respect. Slowly, Harlem started to shift around him. A barber nodded as he passed. A street vendor offered him a free soda on a hot day. A mother thanked him for walking her daughter home after dark. And Bumpy's network became Patty's greatest asset. Tips came in. There's a new dealer on 140th, selling to kids. Bumpy wants him gone. Corrupt cop from the 32nd shaking down the barbershop on 8th Avenue. 3 men planning to rob the church donation box Sunday morning. Patty acted on every single one. He arrested the dealer. Bumpy's men made sure he didn't come back. He reported the corrupt cop, anonymously, but effectively. He stationed himself outside the church that Sunday. The 3 men saw him and walked away. Harlem noticed. Word spread. Officer O'Brien's different. He listens. He helps. He's not like the others. But back at the 28th Precinct, a different word was spreading. Captain McBride watched from his office window as Patty walked his beat, stopping to talk, shaking hands, laughing with residents. And McBride's jaw tightened, because in his world, a cop who got too close to the community wasn't a hero. He was a traitor. And real quick, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. We're diving into stories the history books won't tell you. Hit that button. One afternoon, McBride called Patty into his office. The door closed behind him, and Patty knew everything was about to change. Captain McBride didn't sit. He stood behind his desk, arms crossed, face red. You think I don't see what you're doing? Patty stood at attention. Sir? Don't sir me, O'Brien. You're walking around Harlem like you're running for mayor, shaking hands, playing nice, fraternizing with criminals. I'm building trust, Captain. It's working. Crime's down on my beat. I don't care about your beat. McBride slammed his hand on the desk. You were seen, multiple times, with Bumpy Johnson, the biggest gangster in Harlem. You having coffee with him, taking walks, getting cozy. Patty's stomach dropped. He's a community resource. He provides intel. He's a criminal. McBride stepped closer. And you're making this department look weak, like we need his permission to police our own streets. That's not what... You're done, O'Brien. Transfer request goes in tomorrow. You're going to Staten Island, maybe the Bronx, somewhere you can't embarrass us anymore. Patty felt something harden in his chest. No. McBride blinked. Excuse me? I'm not transferring. I'm doing my job. I'm doing it right. And if that makes you uncomfortable, Captain, that's your problem." The room went silent. McBride's voice dropped to a whisper. "You just ended your career." The next 2 weeks were hell. Other officers stopped talking to Patty, stopped responding to his radio calls. When he walked into the precinct, the conversations died, lockers slammed, eyes turned away. Someone spray-painted Bumpy's pet on his locker. During a domestic disturbance call, Patty radioed for backup. No one came. He handled it alone, barely. One night, Officer Brennan, a 15-year veteran with a reputation for shaking down businesses, cornered Patty in the locker room. "You think you're better than us?" Brennan shoved him. "You think playing nice with them makes you a hero?" Patty didn't flinch. "I think doing the right thing makes me a cop." "You're a joke." But Patty didn't break, didn't transfer, didn't quit. Because every day when he walked his beat, Harlem reminded him why he stayed. Mrs. Daniels waved from her store. Junie Bird tipped his hat. Kids playing stickball called him Officer Patty and asked him to join. He'd found something the 28th Precinct never gave him: purpose. Then, one night in late 1957, everything exploded. A new heroin dealer moved into Harlem, violent, reckless, backed by the Italian mafia, and Bumpy Johnson declared war. Heroin hit Harlem like a plague. By 1957, you couldn't walk 3 blocks without seeing it. Addicts slumped in doorways, eyes hollow, bodies wasting away, mothers buried sons, families shattered. The neighborhood Bumpy had spent decades protecting was being poisoned from the inside, and Bumpy Johnson was furious. He found Patty outside Mrs. Daniels's store one evening. Didn't say hello. Just, "We need to talk, now." They walked to an empty lot off 135th Street. Bumpy's face was stone. "There's a dealer. Name's Vincent Corso, Italian, mafia-backed. He's flooding Harlem with heroin, selling to kids. 14, 15 years old." Bumpy's voice shook. Not with fear, but rage. "I can't touch him. I move on him. The Italians move on me. It's a war I can't win." Patty understood immediately. But a cop can. A good cop can. Bumpy pulled out a folded piece of paper. 3 addresses, distribution hubs, times, names, everything you need. Patty took the paper, stared at it. "If I move on this without a warrant, without going through channels, you'll save lives." Bumpy's eyes locked on his. "How many kids have to die before you decide the rules matter less than the people?" Patty looked at the paper again. Then he folded it and put it in his pocket. "I'll need help. Officers I can trust." Bumpy nodded. "There are 2, Rodriguez and Freeman, both good men, both tired of watching this neighborhood burn." 3 nights later, Patty, the officer Carlos Rodriguez, and Officer James Freeman, one of the precinct's few black officers, hit all 3 locations simultaneously. No warrants, no official approval, just 3 cops and Bumpy's intel. The first location, a basement on 138th Street, 12 kilos of heroin, 4 dealers, all arrested. The second, an apartment on Lenox Avenue, cash, scales, needles, 2 more arrests. The third, a warehouse near the river, Vincent Corso himself, surrounded by product. Corso smiled when he saw them. "You got a warrant, officer?" Patty stepped forward. "You're selling poison to children. I don't need a warrant. I need you gone." Corso laughed. "You just ended your career." "Maybe. But you're still under arrest." The raids made headlines. Major drug bust in Harlem. Dozens of lives saved. Families grateful. The community celebrated. But Captain McBride was livid. Patty was suspended pending investigation. Rodriguez and Freeman were reprimanded. The department launched an internal review. And yet, Harlem didn't forget. The day after Patty's suspension, 200 residents marched to the 28th Precinct. Reverend Hayes led them. Mrs. Daniels spoke. Junie Bird stood in the back, arms crossed, silent but present. They demanded one thing: reinstate Officer O'Brien. 1 week later, Patty was back on the beat. McBride never spoke to him again, and Bumpy Johnson, standing on his usual corner, nodded as Patty walked past. No words needed. Respect earned. By the way, what's the weather like where you are? Sunny? Raining? Snowing? Just curious. Drop it below. But the victory was bittersweet, because Bumpy's health was failing, and time was running out. July 7th, 1968. Patty was walking his beat when he heard. A kid ran up to him, breathless. "Officer Patty, Mr. Johnson, he collapsed, at Wells Restaurant. They saying he's—" Patty didn't wait. He ran. By the time he reached the restaurant on 7th Avenue, the ambulance was already there. A crowd had gathered, silent, stunned. Bumpy Johnson, the man who'd ruled Harlem for 40 years, was dead. Heart attack. He was 62. Patty stood at the edge of the crowd, uniform and all, and felt something break inside him. The funeral was massive. Thousands lined the streets. From 135th to the Abyssinian Baptist Church, people stood shoulder to shoulder. Gangsters, preachers, activists, mothers, children, police officers, the few who'd earned the right to be there. Patty wore his dress blues, stood in the back, didn't speak. Reverend Hayes delivered the eulogy. Bumpy Johnson was many things: a sinner, a protector, a man who lived by his own code. But he loved Harlem, and Harlem loved him back. After the service, an older woman approached Patty. She'd been crying. "You're Officer O'Brien." "Yes, ma'am. Bumpy talked about you, said you were proof that change was possible, that good men still existed." She squeezed his hand. "Don't let his work die with him." Patty nodded, throat tight. "I won't." But Harlem was changing. With Bumpy gone, the old order collapsed. New dealers moved in, younger, more violent, less principled. The heroin trade exploded. Crime spiked. The fragile peace Bumpy had maintained for decades shattered. And Patty realized he couldn't do this alone. So he doubled down. He mentored young officers, especially the Black and Puerto Rican recruits joining the force. Taught them what Bumpy had taught him: respect, listen, protect. He testified against corrupt cops. 3 officers were fired because of his testimony. He made enemies, didn't care. He helped establish Harlem's first community advisory board, residents working directly with police to address crime, not through force, but through partnership. He walked the same streets for 20 years, every day. Rain, snow, heat. Kids who'd once thrown rocks at patrol cars grew up and brought their own children to meet Officer Patty. Store owners who'd once refused to speak to cops invited him to family dinners. Former gang members, now working legitimate jobs, shook his hand and said, "You saved my life." Bumpy had given Patty a gift, the knowledge that real power didn't come from a badge. It came from trust. And Patty spent 2 decades honoring that gift. Then, in 1976, after 20 years of service, Patty O'Brien retired. But Harlem wasn't done with him yet. Most NYPD retirement ceremonies happen at the precinct. Speeches from captains, handshakes, a plaque. Then you disappear. Patty O'Brien's retirement ceremony happened in Marcus Garvey Park, in the heart of Harlem, and hundreds showed up. Families he'd helped, kids he'd mentored, now adults with careers, families of their own. Former officers he'd trained, community leaders, church groups, even a few old-timers who remembered the night Bumpy Johnson saved a rookie cop's life in an alley 20 years ago. Reverend Hayes, older now but still powerful, stood at the microphone. This man came to Harlem in 1956. He was 23, scared, alone, and we had every reason to hate him. Hayes paused. But Patrick O'Brien didn't come here to conquer us. He came to serve us. And for 20 years, he proved that a badge doesn't have to be a weapon. It can be a bridge. Applause rolled through the crowd. Then Patty stepped forward. He looked out at the faces, black, brown, young, old, and felt the weight of 2 decades. "I came here a scared kid," he said, voice steady. "I didn't understand this neighborhood, didn't understand the pain, the history, the strength. But a man named Bumpy Johnson taught me something. Respect isn't given, it's earned." He swallowed hard. "Harlem didn't owe me anything, but you gave me everything. You gave me purpose. You gave me family. You taught me what it means to be a cop. Not by the book, but by the heart." His voice cracked. "Thank you, and for letting me walk these streets, for trusting me, for making me better." The crowd erupted, not polite applause, real, thunderous from the soul gratitude. Patty didn't leave Harlem, he stayed, ran youth programs, coached basketball, walked the same streets, no uniform, just a neighbor. In 1982, residents unofficially renamed the corner of 125th, and Lennox O'Brien's Corner. No city approval, just respect. And on a shelf in Patty's small Harlem apartment sat one photograph. Him and Bumpy Johnson outside that diner on Lennox Avenue, 1957. 2 men who should have been enemies. One saved the other's life, and together they saved a neighborhood. If this story moved you, share it. Stories like this deserve to be remembered. And if you want more untold history, subscribe. We're just getting started. One last thing, drop a comment. What's one lesson you're taking from this story? I read every single one.